Sure, we all know that creepy old haunted house in the neighborhood. That one street all the kids avoid. The friend's attic nobody ever dares to explore. But around the world, some of the creepiest places on earth are real places that you can visit, but only if you dare. Here are 5 creepiest and haunted places in the world. Sit tight and enjoy. Number 1. The dark underworld of the Paris Catacombs. Paris, the capital of France, is often called the City of Light. However, beneath this bustling European city of 12 million people lies a dark subterranean world, holding the remains of 6 million of its former inhabitants. These are the Paris Catacombs, a network of old caves, quarries, and tunnels, seemingly lined with the bones of the dead. By the 18th century, cemeteries were becoming overpopulated, giving rise to improper burials, open graves, and unearthed corpses. Quite naturally, people living close to such places began complaining about the strong stink of decomposing flesh and the spread of diseases from the cemeteries. The situation persisted until 1780, when an unusually long period of spring rain caused the wall around the cemetery to collapse, resulting in the spilling of rotting corpses into a neighboring property. By this time, the French authorities were forced to take action. In 1786, turning them into the Paris Catacombs. It took 2 years for all the bones from the cemetery to be transferred to the catacombs. Over the following decades, the bones of the dead were removed from cemeteries around Paris for reburial in the catacombs. Furthermore, the practice of burying the newly dead were directly in the catacombs began after the French Revolution. Although the Paris Catacombs are still open to the general public today, access is limited only to a small fraction of the network. It has been illegal since 1955 to enter the other parts of the catacombs. Nevertheless, during the 1970s and 80s, the catacombs have been explored illegally by urban explorers. Some of the spaces have been restored and turned into creative spaces. Number 2. Island of Dolls in Mexico. It's a creepy tourist destination in Mexico. The place, which is a floating garden, is currently a home of hundreds of terrifying, mutilated dolls. Their severed limbs, decapitated heads, and blank eyes hung on trees, fences, and nearly every available surface. The dolls appear menacing even in the bright light of midday, but in the dark, they are particularly haunting. The story behind this haunted island lies in a tragedy that occurred in 1950. Don Santana was the only dweller and caretaker of the island. He found a little girl drowned in a canal, surrounding the island mysteriously, and he was not able to save her life. Shortly thereafter, Julian saw a floating doll near the canal. Assuming it to be the girl's doll, Don lifted the doll and hung it to a tree to please the little girl's tortured soul. The guilt of not saving the girl's life made Julian restless. He felt that the island was haunted by the girl's spirit. Only one doll he felt was not enough to please the child. He felt the girl needed company. Terrified by the spirit, he began collecting dolls, which he would find in the canal, from heaps of trash, and hung them on the tree to protect himself. Over half a century, he collected more than 1,500 of these little horrors. All the dolls are still there untouched. They look like decaying corpses of children. Later, Santana died of a heart attack in 2001. Some stories say that he was found drowned in the canal, in the same manner as the dead girl. Number 3. Scarecrow Village, Japan. The decline of village's population is always a sad sight for its older residents, but when 67-year-old Tsukimi Ayano witnessed a dramatic decline of residents in her village of Nagara, Japan, she decided to do something about it, by which I mean she began creating hundreds of scarecrows to replace them. Nagoro is now populated by over 150 of Ayano's handmade creations, many of whom are even created in the likeness of deceased residents. Scarecrow children are the only students in attendance at Nagoro's tiny school. While crowds of these lifeless figures wait patiently at the local bus stop or that in homes and shops, there are many words you could use to describe this so-called Scarecrow Village. Strange, sad, even unnerving. But the irony is that the village's odd new residents are actually bringing more visitors to this remarkable town, as people flock to see it for themselves. Number 4. Okigahara Forest, Japan. Called the perfect place to die, the Okigahara Forest in Japan has the unfortunate distinction of the world's second most popular place to take one's life. Since the 1950s, Japanese businessmen have wandered in, and at least 500 of them haven't wandered out. At an increasing rate of between 10 and 30 per year, recently these numbers have increased even more. With a record 78 suicides in 2002, in 2003 that record was beat with a number of 105 bodies discovered. Japanese people believe that the suicides committed in the forest have permeated Okigahara streets, generating paranormal activity and preventing many who enter from escaping the forest depths. Due to the vastness of the forest, desperate visitors are unlikely to encounter anyone once inside, the so-called Sea of Trees. So the police have mounted signs reading, "Your life is a precious gift from your parents, and please consult the police before you decide to die," on trees throughout. But this didn't stop people from committing suicide in the dense forest. Every year, about 70 corpses are found by the volunteers who clean the woods, but many are forever lost in the very thick woods. Japanese authorities discontinued publishing exact suicide numbers in order to avoid making the place even more popular. Number 5. Capuchin Catacombs, Italy. We began this list with a catacomb, and will end it with a catacomb as well, and this one just as terrifying as the first one, if not even more. The Capuchin Catacombs were originally constructed in the 16th century to enter the bodies of monks, but later expanded to include the wealthier citizens, with rooms specifically dedicated to groups such as religious figures, professionals, women and children. An estimated 8,000 mummified bodies now fill the catacombs in varying stages of decay, all impeccably dressed in their Sunday best. The majority of these bodies were mummified naturally by the dry atmosphere of the tunnels, but other bodies were purposely preserved, such as the body of 2-year-old Rosalia Lombardo, which has barely changed since the day she died. As gruesome as the experience may be, the catacombs now serve as a more but immensely popular attraction for thousands of tourists every year. So that's 5 creepiest and most haunted places in the world. What do you think was the weirdest place on the list? Have you experienced weirder? Do let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon in another video.